everybody. I'm Teepa Snow, and with me today as my guest for a courageous conversation is a woman who had a lot of courage when it came to trying to provide the right support, the right care for somebody she loved a lot and really cared for, which is her mom. And so this is Bonnie Roache, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself as a human being, and then some about her mom. And then we'll get into this situation that required a lot of courage and a lot of heart searching and a lot of strength.
Right. Thank you so much, Teepa. I appreciate this opportunity to talk about, this platform, to talk about what my mom and I went through. It's kind of hard to know where to start, but, I've never considered myself a caregiver. It's just
so tell me, Bonnie, who were you before this journey started? If you had to describe yourself before the journey started with your mom, who were you?
I was a daughter. I was a daughter. I was just a daughter who always cared for my mom. I care for my grandmother. I think that's just inherently who I am. I remember a long, long time ago, a friend of mine, actually several people would say, Bonnie, you're going to be blessed one day for taking care of your mom and your grandmom the way you do. And I remember thinking, I never thought of not doing it. I never thought of doing it.
Yeah, it's just
so.
Yeah.
But I even then I didn't know what it would eventually mean.
Yeah.
So I wasn't. I work in the IT field.
Ooh.
So I knew I didn't want to go into the medical field.
Wow.
But eventually I did.
Well. So you were really good at figuring things out and a problem solver. You have to be an IT.
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
And I think I was just a problem solver.
Yeah. You're really good at using your brain to figure out a system that often is okay. Is it a programming error? Is it a hardware error? Is it a software error? Where are we running into trouble here? Because, if everything was working right, we'd be getting what we're looking for. And if we're not, one of these places, there's an error. I mean, honestly.
Right. And something just wasn't quite right. And with my mom's name, Mary Alice Jackson, and she was diagnosed with Lewy Body Dementia, which I never heard of it until she was diagnosed. The day she was diagnosed, I never heard of it. And so that's what I found along the way, which is why I want to talk about it a lot, because I meet so many people who have never heard of Lewy Body Dementia. People think dementia is dementia. And I admit myself, I thought dementia was memory loss.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. I did.
She has a hard time remembering things. It's like, but
yes.
Whoa, wait, no, this is not the same as that. I mean, whoa.
The things and actually with Lewy Body, Mom really still could remember a lot of things. It was just all jumbled.
And how that idea of confabulation, her brain made stuff up that actually was not actually Mom. But you try to tell her that she's wrong, you're right. Ooh, that's probably a hard
all of those things. The first few years before I knew what was going on, I thought, wow. And we all thought, wow, Mom is just angry. She's really angry at us. She was just, the mood changes. And I talked to people about the signs, the behavior changes, the mood changes. She was angry about everything. She was angry at people. The behavior was just different. Now, Mom could be very cynical. She could be ornery sometimes. She was head of the family. She had that right. So
she's the matriarch.
She was the matriarch. So we kind of let her have that. But this was different. This was very different. And after I knew what it was, I went back and I looked at some of the things I had written. I used to write a lot about what was going on. And I would write because I would give it to her doctors to say, these are the things that I've seen. She's been acting this way or that way, because I didn't dare talk about it in front of her, because she'd get, game over. She'd get very angry.
You had to go home with her, and you were, and the problem is she did not forget stuff. And so you couldn't
Yeah.
say things and think, well, she won't remember anyway. I mean, it
No.
doesn't work like that with Lewy body. I mean, and a
Yeah.
disrespect is a disrespect, even though I'm
Exactly.
just trying to share information. It's like, no, that's you're talking out.
No, she's like, look, I'm right here.
Yep.
I'm right here, you
Yep.
know, well, you know, or you all think I'm stupid. It made her really angry.
Oh,
But
yeah.
when I went back and I looked at what I had written before I even had a clue, I talked about, I think mom has a problem getting old. I think mom has something that's more neurological or psychological. And, you know, she's moody and her behavior's changed. And I listed all of these things. And then years later, when I look back, I said, why did someone tell me mom had dementia?
Why did it take so long for
like
somebody to say, oh, what you're describing is a solid sort of onset of
Right.
having some brain shift here that
something going on with her brain, even though I understand maybe they didn't want to misdiagnose her too soon.
yeah, got it.
But
Whatever.
I just thought she hated me.
Yeah. I mean, so now
It
do you
wasn't.
think it would be better to at least have the heads up? We might be dealing with a condition. I mean, we're very likely dealing something that's going to keep changing, and it signals that her brain is starting to fail her some.
Especially if it's completely different.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if it's completely different. And that's why I encourage people to get a diagnosis. Get a diagnosis so that you know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, Bonnie, how long do you think these things were impacting you and your mom's life significantly before somebody finally helped you put a label on it? I mean, but now looking back, it was like, this was going on. I was trying to bring it up and I wasn't getting any support for bringing it up.
Yes. She was diagnosed in 2015. And when I thought back, I remembered when my mom moved back to our hometown to take care of her mother, which was not long after my mom had retired from her job because of a disability. I started to think about all those changes she had gone through. Her mom was her rock.
Yep.
That's when we really started to see that she had this anger about something.
Yeah.
So that was around, 96 and 97. There have been several years that we have seen the behavior.
Yeah. So she was she was under a lot of stress and distress, trying to cope with a change in life, a change in circumstance, a change in housing, a change in responsibility. All
of that. And that's one of the things people, and of course, I would tell people, I'm not a guru by any means, but along the way in talking to other people, I started to wonder whether, what did I call it? Like really impactful things that happen in your life or very stressful things that happen in your life could trigger some of this behavior. Because when my mom retired, I realized her job was her social outlet.
Yep.
That's where her friends were. And and she was home alone. She didn't really have a social outlet.
She also felt confident and competent. I mean, it was a good place to show that she had skill and that she was respected and that she had value when she was at work.
Yes. Yeah. And that changed. And then by my suggestion, I'm always trying to fix things. So she was home alone. My grandmother was home alone. Thinking they want to be together. So I suggested that she move back with her mom, which was a very good idea. But I now understand that she was watching her mother as she had gotten older, the person that used to be her rock. Yeah. She became a caregiver 24/7. So that was another huge change.
Yeah. So what kind of work did your mom do before she retired?
She cared for people. She had raised her siblings since she was she told that story a lot, since she was like 10 or 12. She would take care of them. And then later on, she worked in a hospital in the kitchen where there was a nursing home. And she would often talk about those older people, even when she was in the facility, she would talk about those older people. And she would even try and care for people. People would tell me stories that if someone else, one day she was in a facility and another lady was crying, and they told me that mom went up to her and was hugging her and telling her, it's going to be okay. And and this was even later with the dementia. That was who she was.
It's part of who she was. So imagine being in that situation and then feeling so flustered, your own mom that you care so much about, you can't figure out how to make it better for her because it feels like the things you're doing, she doesn't appreciate, she's not liking. And I'm not talking about you and your mom, I'm talking about your mom and her mom. And so to have that going on and your own brain is playing tricks on you, it's a really scary place to be. And I think, that's what I personally see too little awareness of on the part of health providers. People not realizing how much the person is really trying so very hard to make this work and feeling so flustered by so many things. And so we see anger because I'm not stupid. I should be able to figure this out, but not being able to figure it out.
Not being able to figure it out. And she would say things to me like, I don't feel right. I remember she kept saying something about my head. My head doesn't feel right. And it happened when I went to this doctor and he gave me a shot. Well, I found out that never happened, but she was so confused. And
her brain was trying to saying, why is this? I feel so wrong. Yeah. Well, I went to he gave me. So her brain made up stuff to help explain why this thing was happening because she likes to know why. She
wants to know what was going on. So she said, this is hurting. My head is hurting. My back is hurting. And it goes around this way and that way. And so I would take her to the doctor and we would get to the doctor and she wouldn't say anything about the pains.
I'm fine. Yeah. It's like, what?
She wouldn't say anything about the pains.
No. Mom, you gotta talk about this stuff. It's like, fine. What are you trying to do? Give me something. I don't know.
Yeah. Many times we would get to the doctor and I'm like, this is going on. That's going on. See, read my notes. She said this, she said that. And they were like, Miss Jackson, I'm fine. I've been doing fine. You're looking at me like, okay.
I'm telling you, that's what she said an hour ago. I'm not making this
really happened.
Yeah.
So we went through that for a while. We went through that for a while until it really started. My grandmother passed. I think that was definitely
trigger. Major trigger. Yeah. I lost my job. Now I lost my job and my mom and myself. It's all coming unraveled.
Right. And then she was home by herself. And we really started to see the behavior just escalate. She was fixated on things. That was just a fixation. Her house. Someone's in my house. Someone, though this TV wasn't like this, or these are not my clothes, or it was just
nothing's right. Nothing's right.
A paranoia.
And lots of paranoid thinking. That's one of those Lewy body hallmarks. So when you were in this place, Bonnie, was all your family on board with you, or was there also some of that going on with Bonnie? I think you're just making, it's not that bad. I mean, I talked to her. I mean, there's usually a lot of different perspectives at this point going on, but not always.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody pretty much agreed that Mom was angry.
Okay.
and
okay, well, that's good to know you were all on the same page.
Everybody was on the same page with that.
How the hell?
Matter of fact, I remember they tried to say, Bonnie, think you should talk to her. So I think what started to happen is I definitely tried to address it, but I think they tried to help her. Her sister would try to come around and try to help her, but she couldn't do anything right. So, like I said, Mom, it just got worse. And I lived 3 hours away. So I was kind of back and forth and I would bring her back to Atlanta where I lived. And then finally, I was taking her to the doctor. They had her assessed. I think this doctor finally said, something's going on. She said, well, let's have an assessment. It came back. What is it called? Normal for her age, cognitive impairment.
Yeah.
Cognitive impairment, normal for her age.
Cognitive impairment, normal for her age. It's like, what?
So
this is not normal for my mom.
Well, at that time, I'm thinking, okay, well, she's just going to be angry as she gets older. But, that's just who she is. I want her to be herself. I don't want to medicate her. So, we went back to doing what we were doing and it got worse. She would sit in a dark room by herself. I just do you want to be home? Do you want to be here with us? Do you know?
Wow.
And yeah, and I think finally what happened, it just one day I was trying to help her with her medication, and she just almost just blew up. She just threw them across the room and she screamed, leave me alone, leave me alone. And all I could do was freeze, just freeze and reach to my phone and hit record to show myself later on that really happened.
It wasn't me doing something untoward. It was truly a meltdown of unbelievable proportion that didn't have logic or reason behind it.
Right. And I already knew it wasn't normal for her age, but then I knew, no, this is something, and I need to know what this is.
This is not like just not normal. There's something wrong here, guys. I don't care what you say. This is not just normal age stuff.
Yes, it's not normal age at all. And I realized it was hard because I realized something was going on with her that was hard for her, and I didn't want her to have to continue to go through that.
Yeah.
So I definitely end up taking her to a neurologist. They only had an epileptic doctor at Emory that had an opening. I said, I'll take it.
Yep. I mean, we need something. We can't keep going like this. This is not right. This is not working. Yes,
I need something to figure out what to do here. Because at that time, I figured I can't take her back home by herself.
No.
And so she had the assessment, and they referred her to the Integrated Memory Care Center, which is a new group that just started at Emory.
Gotcha.
And I still remember the day, I wanted to go in the room with them when they tested her and all of that. I was just trying to care for her. But when they did the test and they came back, and he said, she has Lewy Body Dementia. I remember when he said it. And I remember Mom said, neither one of us knew what it meant. She said, well, I'm 77. I'm going to forget some things. So I thought, that makes sense.
Okay, so I got some dementia. Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Gee, I thought it was called Alzheimer's, but what the heck? It's probably similar or something. It's probably just
right. I think that she took the test, she forgot some things. And so he said she needs some medication, but at the time I'm thinking, I don't want to medicate her. I'm thinking medication, sedation, as long as she's okay. She may be angry, but we can deal with that. We love her. Mm-hmm. And so we went home, but it got much worse. And I realized, no, she needs help if it's the medication.
Because this is not, we've done all we know how to do. Now, I'm just curious, Bonnie, because this is the point at which I usually go, so you got some training at that point. When they gave you that information, they made sure that you got some good support in place for you and for your mom.
No. Actually, I remember we left, we went back, it got worse. And I remember thinking, okay, she has this Lewy Body Dementia. I'm sure I Googled some stuff and looked some stuff up, but I still didn't know.
It still was.
What do I do?
What am I supposed to do about this? What does this mean, Lewy Body Dementia?
Right. Well, that's not. So I reached back out to them. Yeah, I reached back and said, I definitely think she may need the medication, but I need to understand what this is and what do I need to do? I don't know what to do. I didn't. And so at that point, they were great. They had programs I took. I have it right here called the Dealing with Dementia, a Caregiver's Guide. It's a book. It's like this thick.
Oh my heavens! Just what you need when you're sort of in crisis, huh?
But everything.
It's a great thing to have right there when you're sort of like, so how do I get her to be willing to come in?
Yes.
Well, it was a class.
But it was about a half-day class with other caregivers. Most people were professional caregivers. Here I am, an IT person.
Yep.
But it was great.
At least they're starting to go, oh, you need some information because you're working blind. Oh.
Yes. And that's when I started to learn, that mama's being difficult. And for a while, I did the thing that, no, mom, is this, is that. And it was just escalate. But I started to really see and understand some of the techniques and had to learn how to, stay in front of it, to take care of her, stay in front of the dementia. as it just started to get worse. It stabilized for a few years, but there's just so many things I had to learn to help de-escalate situations.
And the thing with Lewy body is it's never stable. I mean, you may think it's stable, but then it's like, oh boy, no sleeping, no sleeping, no sleeping.
Right. The late night calls.
Yeah. Oh boy, this is going to be
late night calls. Right. I spent so much time because I had my own, home. I was married, but then I had moved mom to her own apartment here closer to me because I couldn't take her home. And she actually did well for a few years there, about 2 or 3 years there. And so, I had caregivers coming in and we had to find ways because mom said, I don't need a babysitter.
Yep. You're absolutely right, Mom. You do not need a babysitter.
I need a babysitter.
You're right. Yes.
Right. But we knew that, I needed someone there to kind of keep an eye on her.
You need a second set of eyes, but you don't need a babysitter. I hear you.
Not a babysitter. So,
no.
So I started hiring people. I would interview them. It was hard to find people, but I would write down her history. This is who she is. These are her siblings. These are people she used to know, because that seemed to be where she was comfortable back, years ago in her past. Yeah. And there's one particular caregiver, and she actually went with us to the end. When we met her, she learned all that information, and we actually introduced her as a granddaughter of my mother's cousin. And that's who she became.
He was family.
Aunt Hazel's granddaughter. That's who she was. There you
go. And so, okay. Well, that explains why I know you then. Now, I haven't seen your mom in a while. How your grandma, how is she doing?
And that's how she would talk to her. And she would just make her feel comfortable. Yep. Just, a strategy, a tactic that we would use to help her, stay calm, or help her to be comfortable with this person being in her home.
Yeah, because she had to, or else she wouldn't let her be in the home.
She wouldn't let her be there.
You guys did pretty good for quite some time, and actually did decent. I mean, like, her life had some quality to it. You were doing okay. I mean, I wouldn't say it was stress-free, but I'd say you were managed. You were managing pretty.
We managed it for a while. We did. We did.
And then
we managed it for a while.
And then things got out of control again.
Yeah, it did. After, I guess, about 3 years. Yeah, it escalated. I mean, she became incontinent. That was a huge problem.
That's a rough one.
Yeah.
That's hard for a lot of women who've been proud, private, in control women. And somebody thinks they're going to take my clothing off. Somebody thinks they're going to tell me I'm wet. Somebody thinks they're going to do things. I'm fine. I'll do it when I'm ready. So it's especially with Lewy body, because that sensory awareness is like not, and then it is, but then explanations, it's like, oh my heavens.
Yes, that was hard because she would actually say, I never wet the bed. She said, I never used to wet the bed. So basically, why are you, she knew what it was when I tried to give her, the pull-up things or whatever. Oh, yeah. So I had to come up with ways we had to just come up with other ways by putting things in the bed, or just making sure she went to the bathroom after she ate.
Do your best, because she was not going to wear an incontinence brief. I don't care what you do, whether it's pull up or not, for a while there. And then there comes a place where sometimes you can reintroduce it. If you haven't made it such we're going to fight about this until I win, you might have another chance down the road to bring it up, because,
Right. So that was all of that. And, the hallucinations, they were increasing, and she was living in an apartment building for seniors, but with the dementia, she was becoming a little too disruptive to be there.
She was too scared. She was too scared to be there on her own, because what she would do is she would act out some of her misthinking, her delusional thinking. And so people would look at her like, whoa.
Yeah. And I didn't want her to be, I didn't want her to be exposed to that. People was like, what is she doing? And we tried for a long time. I mean,
it doesn't help.
It doesn't. I mean, we increased the caregivers, myself, my aunt, and we had about 2 other caregivers, and then it increased to overnight. That became expensive.
Yep.
And
it still wasn't working very well. I mean,
it wasn't.
Like you look around and everybody's looking at her. She goes down the hall. You know that she has lost a lot of friends, and now people are watching her and listening to what she's.
And we tried to keep her inside, like, oh no, Mom, don't go out there. Don't, we would give her reasons why you don't want to go out there, and and sometimes it works, but sometimes she just wanted to walk.
She wanted to go out.
She just wanted to walk. Yep. So
it
became, the apartment just transformed over the years. Think about the time when even the mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
After a while, it was this woman in the mirror, why she keep looking at me, and they eventually realized we need to cover the mirrors up so that, she couldn't think that, the woman was angry at her.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that. And then, of course, the cooking and all of that. So
let's be honest.
She was a cook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She was a cook. So that was pretty funny trying to keep her from using the stove.
Yeah. How much was she eating versus cooking? Was she losing weight, gaining weight? How was she?
She lost a lot of weight, but my mother she was overweight for a long time, but she had diabetes and she managed it well before the dementia got bad. She actually managed it well. She started losing weight.
Yeah.
So she had actually lost a lot of the weight. And then when the dementia really set in, she lost a lot of weight.
Like a stone. Yeah. And that wasn't healthy weight loss. That became, she wasn't really hungry or thirsty. And it was difficult for you. And often I'm wondering with your mom, it often happens. I think you're trying to poison me or there's stuff in that food. It doesn't taste good. I never, That
might be an anomaly for my mom, Tifa, because when I think about it, she really ate pretty well.
She? Oh,
yes, that was part of the. Wow. Yeah, she always loved food. Food was how she loved us. She was
that's great.
So that's how she loved us. So she loved food. So she always wanted to have food around her. So she really did eat really well. We really didn't have that problem with her. Matter of fact, it was grocery shopping is one of the things that we did. And I tell people, try to find what they love doing before, but you have to be able to allow them to continue to do it in a controlled way. So I would take her to the grocery store. That was one of her things, shopping and grocery shopping. And she would take hours in a grocery store. Well, I would take her to the grocery store, the small one. And so she knew the routine.
Neighborhood.
Still very familiar.
Neighborhood one. Yeah.
Yes. It was still very familiar to her to get her buggy and go down the aisles, perusing the aisles, picking up things, looking at them, putting it back. And I would just let her do that. I was not far behind.
Right.
Sometimes I would come up, and what I would do is let her pick up, the 5-pound bag of flour or all these things, the cooking oil that she's going to fry some chicken in. But I know I can't have that in the kitchen because if she sees it, she's going to try to use it.
Yep.
But I would let her fill her buggy. And then when she's not looking, I would take it out.
Yep.
So we would just go through that routine of her shopping and me taking things out.
So it's so you hunt it, she hunts and she gathers, but it's like once you hunt and gather, then okay, I don't need it until I need it. So by the time that she needed it, it wasn't in the cart anymore, but she didn't realize she needed it.
She didn't realize it.
That was back hunting. That's
she was just going through
we're good.
She was just going through the process, and it was just, allowing her to continue to do. Allowing her to continue to do what she would normally do.
Yeah.
And, and that was it. So she actually ate pretty well. So we were always trying to find new ways to keep food in the kitchen. We would put food in the refrigerator, and in her mind, she had cooked that day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember when I came to the apartment one evening after work, and she said, I cooked today, fix yourself a plate. So I was like, what did you cook? And she started taking out things that we had put in there. So, but I knew she was trying to feed me. That's what she always did. So I fixed myself a plate and I ate.
Good job. Good job. I'm glad you learned your job, because your job was to be served by her sometimes, because moms need to be moms. And, and I think sometimes it's so easy to forget that moms need to be moms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dads need to be dads. And when we don't allow people that role in our lives, it robs them of who they are. And that's part
Yes.
of loving the person and coping with this condition that they're
And
living
how you
with.
talk to them. Right. So we did well with it until I had to move her out of the apartment, and we ended up in, I call the system.
Hi, I'm Tifa Snow, and you just found our YouTube channel and watched one of our videos. I'm the owner and founder of Positive Approach to Care. Thanks for watching. And if you liked, if you have a comment about, or you would, please share it with people you know. Oh, and if you haven't yet done it, consider subscribing. We'll let you know when the next new video comes out. And you might want to visit our website, www.tipasnow.com, where you'll find other resources as well. See you there.